This is not a Stevenson case, but it's very much like it, and Jim Tucker, who has taken over for Dr. Stevenson, has appeared on television with little James Leininger. And the story here is James' parents are Christians. At least they were Christians. Now I think they believe in reincarnation. But and in particular, the father, Bruce, was an evangelical Christian. And reincarnation was totally against his belief system in particular. And what happened is that little James, at 3 years of age, started to have terrible nightmares. And he would scream out at night, "Little man can't get out, little man can't get out." And they would find him kicking at the sheets like he was trying to kick something open. And this kept on going, and they tried to understand what's happening. They even enlisted the help of Carol Bowman, who's a well-known researcher in child reincarnation cases. And they start to ask, what's happening? And he described that he was in a plane, his plane was shot, that it was burning, that it was crashing, that he couldn't get out of the cockpit. And he started to demonstrate this unusual knowledge of World War II aircraft, both American and Japanese. And he knew all these terms that were used in World War II to describe these aircraft. He knew that Japanese aircraft were called Zeeks or Tonys, and he talked about the big orange ball, which is how he knew it was a Japanese plane. He named the name of his best friend in that lifetime. He said that his plane was a Corsair, that the Corsair would veer to the left on takeoff and its tires would blow on landing. And Bruce would research this and find everything that his young son was saying was accurate, historically accurate. And they thought, how can he possibly know this? You know, they knew he was not learning this from Sesame Street or Barney. You know, and finally they started to think it might be reincarnation. And they asked, little James said that his plane flew from a boat. And so the father asked, what was the name of the boat? And he said the Natoma. Well, it turned out there was a World War II aircraft carrier called the Natoma Bay in the Pacific. And once they were leafing through a book on World War II, James and Bruce, and they came to a section on Iwo Jima. And little James says, that's where I died. And it turned out the Natoma Bay was involved in the Battle of Iwo Jima, and there was only one pilot who died in that battle, and that was James Houston. And they were able to actually reunite little James with the surviving veterans who were having reunions. And he named some veterans, at least one by name specifically. And his parents thought, you know, he would have a great time here, but he seemed very sad. And they asked, why are you so sad? And he said, well, they all look so old. You know, because he remembered them as young men. Eventually, he was reunited with James Houston's surviving sister, Ann Barron, who actually lives on the peninsula here. And he knew so much specific information, like the name of their sister, what the kind of work that their mother did. He said the elder sister's name was Ruth, which was true, that Anne, the younger sister, and James Houston had matching portraits done, which was true. Okay, the sister was a society writer and was horrified when their mother took a job as a maid for one of the socialites. And little James knew this. And for Anne Barron, he knew so many things that were accurate, she accepted him as the reincarnation of her deceased brother and gave all the surviving artifacts to little James. This case first came out in 1995. It was on ABC Primetime. And at that time, I predicted that James Houston would grow up to look like, James Leininger would grow up to look like Houston. These are the pictures that were available at the time the case came out when he was a little boy. And what happened, and this is a new development that I'm very excited about, in January, Bruce Leininger sent me a picture of James as he is now, as of last January. Now he's 12 years old. And he said, you know, my wife thinks there's a resemblance, but I'm not sure. What do you think? And he sent me a picture of little James, that's, you know, a large colored JPEG image, and the image of Houston was a small black and white image. So I just did what I normally do, is I pair them and size them, and now I think it's clear that little James is starting to look very much like James Houston. Would you agree? Yeah. So again, cases are coming out and evolving that are demonstrating these principles of reincarnation, reinforcing other cases. It raises the question of why did Stevenson focus so much on birthmarks and not facial features, since facial features are so much more specific.